Hey, everybody, welcome to the Approved Perspective podcast powered by Approved Social. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Approved Perspective podcast powered by Approved Social. We're excited to have Manny Torres with us today. Manny's got a lot to share. He's done some very cool things in AI. He does some very cool stuff with making sure that you're able to actually get clients to pay, stay, and refer, which I think is a fantastic thing we're going to dive into here in a little bit in the episode. So make sure and take a listen to this episode with Manny from Growth Amplifiers. We're going to talk a little bit about how we can make data-driven and innovative decisions empowering B2B professionals. So very cool stuff. This might be really applicable to whoever your client base is. I think you're going to be able to pull a lot of information out of this. We're going to talk about some cool stuff here. So Manny, welcome.
Hey, Preston. Great to be here.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. So I would love to give a little bit of background about you. Would you mind sharing just a little bit about who you are, where you're located, and kind of how did you even get into this world?
Yeah, so Manny Torres, I'm here in Jacksonville, Florida. My company, Growth Amplifiers, we started back in 2012. But taking it a step further back, how I got into this, I grew up in North Carolina, went to school at NC State. I was a graphic design major. I ended up working in Atlanta for several years in agencies, kind of working my way up. My wife got an opportunity to move to Jacksonville. I said, yeah, I'd love to be by the beach. So came down here around 2010. I started a print and graphic design company. And as I was growing that company, I was in a BNI, which is Business Networking International. A lot of people are familiar with that. And I was looking to find a referral partner. And my area director introduced me to Kenny Harper, who became my business partner later on. And essentially, we kind of hit it off, had aligned values, and we said, hey, why don't we work together? And that's when we launched our company.
Right. Very cool. And there's an interesting story there, too, because, you went to a networking event and you were already doing some of this by yourself, right? So tell me a little bit about that, because I think so many people in this world, we bootstrap. Like a lot of digital marketers are bootstrappers, right? We didn't go out and raise money to start our agencies, whether you're in consulting or you're actually in the delivery of work. Like you probably started doing a lot of the things yourself, wearing a lot of hats. What was it looking like at that moment before you met your partner? What happened there?
Yeah, so like a lot of new business owners, I was essentially trying to put myself out everywhere. So I was doing every single networking event. Some of them were like really low, level ones, meeting in the back of a Denny's. But eventually you realize, not all networking is made to be the same. And luckily I was tracking what kind of results I was getting from these different networking events. And I realized one or two were really above and beyond the others. And BNI was one of those. Because they actually make you track what you're doing. They actually educate you on how to present and train your team on how to deliver new referrals. So that was the one networking group that was really benefiting me. So I put all my eggs in that basket and really looked to push that one forward. And in terms of, finding something of value there, by knowing exactly what I needed in a referral partner, I was able to find someone that aligned with what I was doing, serve the same customer base. And that's when I was able to meet my business partner, Kenny.
Very cool. Very cool. It's fun how those sort of unexpected, occurrences happen where you if you go into it with the mindset of there could be opportunity here, there will be opportunity there. Like you're going to find someone that you can connect with. If you're going to the mindset of, man, this is a shitty event, it's too small, it's, whatever. Sure, that's what you're going to get out of it. And I think that is a big piece for a lot of us when we're getting started is, going to these network events and just making that one connection with that one person that's real. And nowadays doing this or doing something where you can connect with someone, whether it's a live event or a podcast or just staying in touch with folks, like it's a critical component of any business. And if you're an agency out there, if you're a consulting business out there, just start with the basics, the basics, blocking and tackling of what we need to do as regular human beings to stay in touch with people is going to equate to revenue and is going to equate to relationships that you're going to build and grow and strengthen. So tell me a little bit about this, because you met this guy and you're at this event. What's his name again?
Kenny.
Kenny. And so Kenny, y'all connect, and are y'all the same type of people? Like, do y'all like, are y'all, you do the same things, you're friends, that's how you got connected? Or did you connect on, this guy fits this business role, I fit this business role, here's how we get together and make this thing work really well?
Yeah, it was a little of both, right? So definitely on the, hey, he's kind of young in his business, he's growing his business, he's growth minded, he's looking to improve. Later on, we both were in like a coaching program together. So we saw there was a lot of alignment in terms of our values and how we approach business.
Cool.
And then in terms of the personal side, we definitely got along. We like each other, different personalities, where he's more like wants to be front and center on stage. I'm more reserved. I'm enjoy people and I enjoy communicating, but I'm not the type of person that's looking for that
Yeah. And
stage presence.
look, we got you out here. Look what
Yeah.
we're doing. We're pulling you out. I love it.
But in terms of, we really aligned and got along well. And I think the difference is help with that, because a lot of times if you have two people with the exact same personalities, you start butting heads.
Yeah.
But we found a good synergy, and we started, doing referral projects together where we're saying, hey, let's combine together, where you're providing some services, I'm providing some, and together we have a sum that's greater than the parts.
Yep.
And we were able to provide a lot more value. And the clients, it was a way for them to see us more than a one-off freelancer.
Yeah.
So it gave them more trust and credibility in us as a business.
We're now a group that offers more services, more consulting, more education. And together, we see people do this really well. When you look at someone super well known like a Russell Brunson, right? You're talking about a guy who very early on in any conversation or that you see him or anything that you speak, that you hear him speak, if I can get the words out, he talks about giving credit to other people, other marketers have given him the ideas and the strategies that he teaches. It's like, he's like, look, this isn't new to me. Like, I mean, this isn't new to the world. Like, I'm regurgitating facts that I've gotten from other folks that are strategies that will help you. And it's amazing when you think about it, because he's compiled information for folks and condensed it and built it out into, what can I pull from this book and this person and this topic, bring it all together into a way that I could weave my hook story and offer, right? And how that works. And I think that's what you guys have done so well, is saying, hey, it's not about competition. It's about how do we partner together. A lot of agencies, I think early on when they get started, they're worried about someone else in their vertical taking too much business. And I think, Manny, as you would probably say, you consult with a lot of folks, a lot of B2B, a lot of other folks. Like, I'm sure you see that there's a lot of fish out there, right? Like, we don't have to worry about that so much. We can learn from each other, grow from each other, and really help each other, achieve success. I mean, have you been able to see sort of that, happen when you guys are working together? It sounds like your business is doing great, right?
Yeah, it's definitely an abundant mindset, right?
Yeah.
So if you're leading with the idea that there's enough business out there for everyone, and we're not competitors, but we're allies, there's always going to be that opportunity when you see it. Very similar to what you said before. If you're looking and you're saying this, great things are going to happen here, great things will happen. But if you're looking for negativity, you're going to attract that to you. As an example, I have a story. When I was early on in the stages of my printing company, I did a lot of referral business and had strategic partners. And there was a designer that I was doing business with, and her client came to me and said, hey, can you help me with these other things? And, as someone that has a lot of referral relationships, I went straight to her and said, hey, just to let you know, your client reached out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing was, she didn't say, hey, thanks, I'll talk to them. She was like, well, obviously you must have done something. I was like, why would I bring this up if I was trying to steal your client? But she stuck with her client, and I was like, hey, I understand, if that's the way you want to go, just understand and be mindful of this moving forward. But
Yeah.
I didn't get upset. I'm forward looking, making sure that, have that abundant mindset. If something leaves, something better is going to turn up. And if you have that mindset, both with your clients, with your partners, with your industry peers, I think that's going to help you move forward and be able to achieve the success that you're looking to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, I think, it's a lot of people might go, oh, the abundance mindset, or, oh, manifesting, or do you meditate or whatever. And those things are, um, still looked down upon and still sort of frowned upon with, like, that's silly. I can't believe that guy's doing that. Right. You just get out there and you work, that's it. Right. Like, that's all you got to do. You hustle, right? There's the hustle mindset, which is sort of the opposite of all that. But I think that, a lot of people probably are stuck in this, negative thinking, this sort of negative self-talk about these events and meetings and things. And it is crazy how, when you're able to sort of change your mindset, um, it's not that it's going to give you abundance. It's not that just money's just going to rain down upon you. What happens, people, is that, in my opinion, Manny, and you can tell me if this is true or not, but in my opinion, what happens for me is I become more disciplined. I become better. I get more focused. And it's like, it's a cascading sort of waterfall, of like, this one thing happens by choosing to be more positive, by choosing to go into this situation with an abundance mindset in this client meeting. And you have an opportunity to really open the door for yourself just to work better and be free to think more clearly, and everything. I don't even know how to describe it, really, but it's just this sort of process that happens after you make the decision to be more focused on the good. My wife is fantastic at it. I am not so good at it. I am much better at focusing on the negative and the possibility of the client that, doesn't last, and, this, that, and the other. And so, uh, there's balance, but, if you're out there, I think that's a big thing. Do you find that that's true in your world? Do you believe in those types of things?
I do. And, as you said, there's a balance there. On one side, if you're getting stuck in the negativity, you're down on yourself, you're not aware that there may be new opportunities that are presenting themselves.
Right.
So if you're taking that abundant mindset where everything is a gift or an opportunity, and you say, hey, even though I lost this account, what did this actually free up?
Yeah.
What are the things that are available to me? Where can this lead me that's closer to where I'm going? Maybe that wasn't a perfect fit. What can I learn from that relationship so that the next one's better? And maybe you elevate the type of client that you're working with. On the flip side of that, if you're, think everything's hunky dory all the time and you're not looking ahead to say,
Yikes.
hey, what could be a roadblock, a challenge that's coming up, and how can I prepare for that? Right. Obviously, you could never see something like the pandemic coming, but you could say, hey, I need to diversify my client base so that it's not all, one type or one industry or one service. So if something like that happens, you have a way that you can pivot and adapt and move forward.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely true. I think you have to be grounded as a business owner, or as a C-level executive of some sort. You have to be grounded, but you have to keep that positivity. So it's a balance. It's tough. You've got to keep those people around you that are positive. You also got to keep those people around you that are data driven decision makers, who are going to help you also know when you're going off the rails a little bit and being a little bit too positive about some client closing or something. It's not close. I always, the old thing, I get off a call with a client, still sometimes, very rarely, and if that happens, I've got to go, okay, it felt really positive. It seemed like really good. Like, I didn't get a decision right on the call, but I think it's going to happen. But you got all this follow up. You need to make sure that you're doing what you need to be doing to keep that going. But anyways, we talked about some cool stuff there. I think that's interesting. And business owners need to think about that more often. We got a lot of folks who are going to be more interested, though, in some of the things that we're talking about here with digital and what you guys are doing strategy wise. And what about these custom frameworks that you've created? And I want to hear a little bit about that, and sort of the idea of, like, how you're not salesy, but how you're actually converting high value counts people that, like you said before, pay, stay, and refer. Can you just talk to me a little bit about what your approach is for that?
Yes. So, the main type of clients that we're generally working with, they're B2B advisors. So these can be tax professionals, it can be a fractional CFO. It's people that are helping businesses be more profitable and keep more of their hard earned money. And a lot of time these advisors, they're accountants, so they're introverts, they're not really marketers, they're not salespeople. And even though they know they should be selling more often or selling different services, it's hard for them to articulate it and make that communication to their clients. So what we help them do is one of two things. One is if they don't have enough clients and they're looking to attract those ideal clients, we help them, really zero in on who that is. What's that niche that they're
Mm,
looking to serve? What are those challenges, those pain points, and how are they helping them have that transformation? And we help them map out what are the stages all the way from that time that person's first aware of them all the way until they become that raving fan that's going to help promote and drive more referrals.
mm,
And the process and the framework that we have is helping them by building out the components of it so they don't have to sit there and create it themselves. They can use our framework, adjust it based on their particular industry, and then they can plug and play that into their marketing and their sales so that they seamlessly and subtly guide their prospects through each stage until they become that raving fan.
yeah. That's cool. And so do you use a lot of processes and like tools and systems that you go, if you're in this industry, if you're, an accountant or whatever, here's sort of the strategy for how this works, but then we're going to come in, we're going to customize that specifically for you. Do you have like a sort of a suite of tools that you're suggesting and that type of thing?
So we have processes that we put in place, and a lot of times we've simplified it to the point where a lot of these advisors, they don't have much at all. So just having the bare minimum or the foundation in place that they can grow from is a great step forward, because many of them may have 200, 300 clients, but they've never emailed them about other services. They've never had an assessment. They've never had a consultation call where they have a set agenda of where they're trying to take them. So by having these tools in place and these stages set up, it makes it a simple 1, 2, 3 process for them to follow. And then they can take their clients and know that a percentage of them are going to elevate and move forward with them to the advisory level.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. I think, I mean, man, I cannot tell you how many customers I talk to who I go, tell me about your email plan and your email strategy. And they go, well, I emailed them like 6 months ago when I had that last special deal. And you go, oh my God, it's crazy, right? Like, and it's interesting that we do that. We do that in life in a lot of ways. We don't take advantage of certain things that we have in front of us until we later can look back in hindsight and see those things and go, okay, why didn't I do that? All of us can think about when we were younger and there was a resource around us, a super smart person that we were connected with, or, an opportunity where if we just took an extra hour and learned digital marketing on the side, we could have been further in our careers or whatever that might look like. We always have those things. And I think that, it's great that you're able to sort of help those folks use that time wisely. I think I heard a stat is it 70% of accountants are like over the age of 50 or 60 or something like that. It's pretty phenomenal, right? Like, what are you finding in that world? Is that that's a big part of your business, accountants, right? Is it mostly, are you working with the older demographic or a younger demographic, or is it sort of everywhere?
It's a combination. There's definitely a majority of that profession that are older, they're boomers,
Yep.
and they're having a big issue because there's more need than there are accountants.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people going into, becoming a CPA now. And so there's a high demand and there's a lack of supply. And the challenging thing is you would think this would have CPAs and accountants and tax professionals elevating the amount
Yeah.
they're charging, but a lot of them aren't. And that's where a lot of the opportunity is, not only just raising prices for the sake of it and for inflation and other things, but how can they identify, hey, where are the areas where we can be a more integral partner with our clients,
Hmm.
be that true advisor, be able to bring in other advisors for different specialties so that we can serve that client so they're getting the best results and can help them grow and expand.
Right.
And that's where, changing that mindset of them being that person that sits behind the desk and just kind of takes what comes to them versus being
Yeah.
proactive and looking for those opportunities. But the great thing is, with what happened with the pandemic, the culture of the accounting professional changed a little bit, because instead of them just working with business owners that were in a 5 mile radius of their
Right.
office, they started doing more virtual online work. You started seeing virtual bookkeepers, virtual CPAs, virtual fractional CFOs, and they're starting to work with people all across the country and all across the world. And I think that's helped them bridge that gap and start to see what's possible.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see that new age accounting professional that is looking for those partnerships, looking for those advisor strategic partners so that they can help them not only move their clients forward, but also move their own business forward.
Right. And I've seen a lot of accountants now, like the Instagram accountant, if you will, right? Like the guy who is reviewing something that Gary Vee said, or something that somebody else said, to see if it's factual or not, right? Um, it's an interesting model, and I'm sure that's probably the rarity still, but obviously some people are really crushing it in that manner. What do you think about that type of a way to go about it?
I think anytime that you can communicate in a way that resonates with your unique audience, it's always going to be a good thing. So you mentioned before about Russell Brunson taking and regurgitating things that other people had already said. But that's the reason why, the great thing about business in our world in general, right, is you have an audience out there that's unique to you.
Yeah.
And if you put your voice out there, you're going to put out a stream that's going to resonate with a certain audience. And the more that you can put it out there, the more that you can get that back. And not only are you attracting those clients that are in line with you, you're also starting to repel those ones that aren't a good fit. And I think that people like that are really taking a stance, and that they are putting it out there in an authentic way where they're not afraid to be themselves. I think it's a good strategy to help them grow their business, and not only grow it, but grow it with people that they enjoy working with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I love that. I mean, and obviously probably the majority of those people on Instagram are going after the younger demographic, business owners, founders, entrepreneurs, that type of thing, which is, I guess sort of growing in a way right now because of AI. Everybody's getting more of an opportunity to sort of start stuff and do things that, I truly believe if you get on ChatGPT and spend a couple weeks really focused on it, you could probably create a revenue generating business, with mostly it. It's an interesting world that we live in. When you're talking about some of the things that you're saying, you're like, hey, staying in touch with them. Obviously, there's the basics, the blocking and tackling that most marketers are going to know generally about. I'm assuming you're talking about the email drips and the messaging, and maybe text or phone calls, or whatever way you're communicating with those folks. Some blogging, some other things. But then you're also, I'm assuming, talking about like, hey, have you thought about this, right? Or have you thought about utilizing your car, or utilizing, whatever those things are. And of course, my accountant's always said the car thing is not real, but I think that sometimes my accountant isn't the best at some of these things. And so let's talk about that for a second, because how do we know, as business owners, you deal with a bunch of accountants, like sometimes I feel like we're not getting the best information. We're not getting him to spend time going above and beyond, saying, here's some areas that you could do because you have special cases, right? Like you have, you're renting out part of your home. Okay, well, that's sort of a given. But I think there's a lot of other areas that I hear about that my guy doesn't do, right? And a lot of people probably connect with that. What are your thoughts on that? How do you even, a lot of us don't even know what we might be missing because we're not those people. We don't want to be those people. We're the complete opposite of those people. So what do we do,
Exactly.
Manning? Tell us.
Yeah, so I think it's very similar to how marketing professionals and advisors, strategists, the way a business owner sees us, right? You can have that marketing company that does actions for you, but you really don't get anywhere. The same thing can be the case with that tax professional. I think the ones that are really great are the ones that do the same thing that great marketers do. They talk about what are your long-term goals, and then they start to work you back. And they take an assessment of the things that you're doing and say, all right, let's prioritize these and say what's most important here. Now, what are the steps to take you from where you're at to where you want to go?
Hmm.
So one of the things that we do in our framework is help our tax professionals. If they don't already have that system in place, we give them a structure of how they can create that 5 topic or 5 area um, assessment, where they can start to say, these are the 4 or 5 areas that are really important
Yeah.
for you to grow and succeed. Let's assess how you're doing in these, and then let's get a benchmark, and then let's focus on a certain area so that we're going to help you grow that moving forward, so that at the end of a quarter, at the end of a year, you can see the progress that you've made.
Right.
Because I'm sure you feel the same way. It's like, if I go a year and I don't see progress, what am I paying for?
Exactly.
And the same is true in marketing, right?
Yeah.
So we essentially have that same type of framework that we encourage our clients to use. And I think that's what's really helpful for people to see that roadmap and that progress that they can move towards their goals.
Right. Yeah, we've definitely made some switches, from time to time, going, okay, we don't, and early on you don't know what you don't know, so you don't even know that you're missing anything. And then later you go, okay, this guy just wasn't helpful in X, Y, and Z area. You talk to another business, you network, and you find out there's a different guy out there that everybody's talking about, or there's a different, tool or technology or idea that you need to be considering with your business. And I think that's something that, you just sort of have to learn and grow in. And maybe some people who are more, accustomed to the world of taxes and other things are more used to this. But for me, it was definitely not something that's my wheelhouse. And so, um, you know, making sure that you're getting the best out of what you can is what you want as a business owner. And so you're trying to figure that out. So I think that's good advice. So let's get back to, like, that's obviously sort of off topic there. You're just giving some advice on how to find somebody, but what do you do? Talk about it. Let me clarify. You're talking about strategies to retain someone. If somebody came to me and they were an accountant and they go, "Hey, Preston, it's our first year working together, and I just found this new way that you could reduce your tax burden by an additional 20,000. And there's this interesting strategy where if you use your dogs as a freaking model, you'll be able to whatever, whatever. I don't care what it is. But if somebody came to me with there was a new strategy that they were willing to implement and try and test every year, every quarter, probably every year, then would there I would be really excited about that person. I feel like that would be the person where I'm like, hell yeah, like this guy is trying new things. This guy is interested in my business and he knows enough about me to determine that there are some unique special cases that would help me. If you're helping them figure that out, then I'm all for it. Let's make that happen. And let me find your best client and use them. That's what I want to do. But is that sort of what you're finding is a helpful strategy, like teaching them how to not find those things? They can find those things, but teaching them how to craft that and package it and make it into a valuable resource. Is that right?
Yeah. So one of the things that we're doing with one of our clients, and it's all about how do you educate your clients in a way that's helpful, but also get them to raise their hand, right?
Yeah.
Because if you just went to you and said, "Hey, I've got this new thing, try it out," you'd be like, "I really don't know enough about that," because we're trying to jump too many stages of that customer's journey, right? Because we're going from engagement all the way to sell right off the bat, versus how do we lead them in a way that's consistent and predictable so that the next logical step is to take that service and sign up for it. So what we encourage them to do is, maybe you're doing a either webinar or lunch and learn where you're, as you mentioned, bringing up those things and saying, "Hey, let us tell you about this new thing that you may heard about, or maybe you didn't hear about, and come and learn about it. And if you're interested, raise your hand and we'll set up a one-to-one so that we can go into more detail and see how it would apply to you." So, that's one model where we use where it's one to many, because as you know, time is money, and these are busy professionals already.
Yeah.
So they don't have a lot of extra time. And if you're doing one-to-one, that fills up your schedule way too quickly. So if you have these one to many, and then you can leverage those assets in other ways where you're creating content, everything's aligned with those topic themes, you can leverage that content multiple ways and multiple purposes so that you can have lots of different hooks out there to engage not only your existing clientele, but also other prospective clients.
That's cool. I like that. Are you suggesting that they um, implement this on a certain schedule? Is there like sort of a process that they should be releasing stuff with, or like in sort of webinars or live events? Do you have like a timeline of sort of when they need to be doing those, how early, how often, and also like when you're talking about live events, everybody has different approaches and stuff like that. Are you doing literally in person? You're recommending they do in person events, or are you recommending that they do online or kind of a combination?
So we typically have virtual events, just because so many people are accustomed to them now, it's less time and effort.
Yeah,
But if you do have high net worth clients, that's you're never going to be in person. So a lot of these accounting offices, they have conference rooms, they have the places to be able to accommodate those. So in person is always going to be preferred, especially if it's a high level client.
sure.
In terms of frequency, a lot of that's going to be determined on the resources that they have, both time and team, right? If you've got a team that can support you, you can have different people that can lead these. You can obviously have more frequency on the number of events that you do. Typically, our clients are usually doing maybe one a month or one a quarter. So it's not something that's overwhelming for them. Again, most of these accounting professionals, they're already busy. They don't necessarily need the extra work. What they're trying to do is convert, say, like 10 clients to 5 clients and still be able to have the same amount of profitability. So we're trying to find ways that they can work smarter instead of harder.
Very good. I love it. I love it. I think a lot of the the principles that you're talking about specifically for your accountants and the B2B that you work with at your group is like applicable to most digital marketing agencies out there. So if you're listening in and you're getting caught up on the accountant side of things, don't worry about that. Just focus in on the strategies and the ideas that Manny is talking about here, because these things are, proven, tried and true things. It's funny to think about even now for me to go, okay, am I going to throw a live event? You know, I should, because there are a lot of people today who are ready to make a purchase and they just want to meet you in person. They're much more personal people. But as digital marketers and as people who are sort of behind cameras like this, we do Zoom calls and stuff, we forget that there is a different way of selling and it doesn't have to be complex. You don't have to be super scared and freaked out about it. You go in, you talk about what you present to those folks, and at the end of the day, you make an ask and that's it, right? Like it's not super complex, whether you're selling accounting or you're selling your own digital marketing services. I think there's a lot to that. So don't throw away those in-person events. Okay, cool. We want to talk about something interesting here. We're going to throw a little curveball here. So we've got an interesting article. It's brands are lose by ignoring Gen X. And I don't. This is interesting because it's a weird title, right? Brands lose by ignoring Gen X. But they're talking about how the brands are really focusing most of their ad budgets still on an older demographic, whatever, older than Gen X is. I think that's me and above. I don't even know. But essentially, this is funny because the quote that they have in here that they or not quote, but they're saying that the population of Gen Xers are feeling not seen by social advertising, according to a recent report from Wavemaker, whoever the hell they are, detailing how the industry is leaving this increasingly valuable cohort behind. Well, I have trouble believing that. I think things are just changing in the market. What do you think about this?
So I've seen some of those reports, and I think it's obviously the boomers were the large group, and then I think the millennials is another large
Yeah,
group because
I think
it's
that's me.
kind of tied to that, right? And when Gen X, the one that they didn't name is the one that's getting left behind. So I'm Gen X, and I think we've always been the group that a lot of people say, we just put our head down and get it done, right? So I think where they're saying that they're missing the mark is because a lot of them are saying, hey, we're the ones getting stuff done, and if you miss out on us, you're going to miss the ones that are going to make some things happen.
Interesting.
But
Yep. They're saying that about $70 trillion is past or has been passed to Gen Xers, which is crazy. I mean, none of the money came to me. So I don't know what happened there with that, mom and dad, but we need to fix this situation. And it's funny too that they're talking about, this. I think a lot of it is that, marketing has changed so drastically, so quickly in the last year, 6 months. I mean, you're talking about things massively changing. I think that boomers and maybe I guess Gen Xers sort of are just kind of got brought into like a giant, pond, an ocean, or if you will, if this is all you get, this is it. I mean, you can think about like the video games that we grew up with. You can think about all we had limited options of stuff that we could do, and we weren't getting online and doing all this. So there's different ways for them to reach those folks. Influencers is a huge market, right? Okay, maybe there's a different way that those people are getting reached now than they were here. But they said that they did a study on like 200,000 people, so pretty interesting to see. They account for about 27% of global spending. So, guys, if you're not thinking about Gen Xers, you might be thinking about that right now, because there is the boomer generation. They get on, they don't need to see really clear creative. Like the creative could be not so great. They don't really care. They care more about content. I think Gen Xers are a little bit sort of right in the middle there. They need the content, they need the appeal, they need the proof. They're probably a little bit more data driven and decision making. Probably could dive into some of this stuff and really learn the specifics of this. But there's always when I'm running campaigns, I see like a big swing. It's either like 60 plus is buying all the stuff, or it's down in the lower age ranges or whatever that you have but you don't really get that sweet spot. So that's an interesting perspective that I need to probably look at.
And I guess 2 points to that too would be, one is, really knowing your audience, who they are for what you're selling.
Yeah.
And then if you're trying to determine what niche you're going after, hey, do you want to take on a niche that has a ton of competition, or do you want to say, hey, we could really make our mark in this niche that's going after Gen X,
right,
and really say, hey, we're going to find out what really resonates with them and align with that, so that we can be that kind of premier person that's connecting with them.
Yeah. And that's a great segue back into, I think, one of the things that you like to teach and educate on, which is a huge part, is the audience building of those folks. So when you're talking about a B2B, like an accountant, obviously that's a higher sale price for people, higher buy-in. For them, what are you doing for them to attract people? Are you like, I always say you use the right lure to attract the right fish. You're obviously helping them with lead magnets and webinars and that type of thing. Are they running ads to generate that? What does the audience look like when you're running those ads? Do you recommend, just some thoughts on that would be great.
Yeah. So the primary way that we've been doing that attraction and kind of lead generation campaign is doing a lot of LinkedIn, because there, a lot of these are business to business, and the more that they're niched after a specific avatar that they're going after, it makes it an effective way to connect. So we use that, and then that ties into our event campaign as well, because if we're already reaching out, making connections, as those ones are starting to warm up, we can start to invite them to those events, share them with them resources, so that they're essentially going through that customer value journey where they're starting to know, like, and trust, all the way up until that point where they are they see a trigger that may identify with a pain point that they have, right? So on that front end, we're helping those accounts and tax professionals really document out what are all the pains, challenges, aspirations, goals, and all the makeup of that avatar, so that you can start to identify, trigger, and then get them to raise their hand and act on it.
Yeah.
You mentioned
Cool.
Chat GPT in our kind of pre talk here, and that's been a great help, because a lot of times when we used to do these workshops where we're helping our client identify these things, it was really hard for them to come up with this information. But using Chat GPT, we've been able to generate some of that information by using prompts to help really clear out that avatar in a way that is very easy to understand. And then we can show it as like hey, is this your avatar? our tax professional looks at it and says, yes, that's it. Or maybe they make a few slight modifications, but it's able to speed that process up quite a bit.
Very cool. And then from that data, you can help them craft the right lead magnets and events and things that they need to be talking about and stuff. That's great. And that's a great strategy that most of us go out and build the thing that we think people want instead of finding the data out first about what they actually want, right? You can talk about SaaS products and you can talk about, everybody says that you overbuild, you build features that people didn't need, right? And you thought they were great, but you just spent a bunch of money on them and it's not useful, and investors aren't happy, people aren't happy, right? It just sits there and gathers dust essentially. And you really got to make sure that you're building for the right audience. And that's just going to save you a ton of money. It might take you a little extra time up front, but diving into that data. So when we approach a new client, we're always doing an audit sort of as the first go-to. Like, we recommend that let us do a full audit of your accounts. Like, we're going to dive in. We're going to find all the data about your audiences. We're going to find out the data about your creative that works best, and all of the information about tracking setups and all that kind of stuff. And I think, you just have to start with the basics and get that done. From there, even if it takes a little extra time, from there, when you build those campaigns out, the client will get better performance because you're going to know more about what's going on and how to best utilize what they've got to achieve success. And so many of us want to cut that corner, I think mostly because clients push back when you take too long to accomplish something. So if you say, hey, I'm going to do this audit first, they don't see a lot of things happening for a week or 2 or 3, depending upon how long it takes you to do this. And so, you really have to go back to telling them the process, the story of why we're doing these things. Why are we starting with the data analysis? Because it's going to save you money. I promise you. And I have that battle with clients consistently where my team is talking to them and they go, hey, it's taken you, we got started 3 weeks ago. What's going on? Well, we're doing a really detailed analysis of all of your accounts and your websites and everything. And you've been in business for 10 years. Like, give us some time. We're trying to save you money. If you want us to just run campaigns, you will spend more money and you will, yeah, sure, we'll go spend the money for you, but you're not going to get results. And ultimately, that's going to look badly upon me as an agency owner. And, I'm sure you're making those recommendations as well as a consultant. Okay, so what's one story, if you want to highlight one story from a client that you were talking to that you guys have been able to come in and apply your strategies and, your workflows and whatnot? What's one you want to feature? I'd love to hear a little bit about a success story.
Yeah, so we have a CPA firm. They've got a few different accountants on the team, and they're one of those firms that has a good book of business. Several hundred business owners that they work with, and they're growing. But right now, they had not had a lot of advisory accounts where they provide those tax planning and higher level advisory services, but they really weren't able to have a consistent way that they were getting those new clients onboarded. So by looking at their customer value journey, it's very similar to what you're talking about, building those foundational pieces. You're essentially plugging the holes in the bucket, right? Because as you know, acquiring a new customer is more expensive than retaining an existing one and ascending it. So by having those different steps in place with the newsletter, with a blog, with content that's gearing towards those pieces of content that are prompting for those different tax planning tips and tricks, and then queuing people to either attend one of those informational events or setting up a consultation, they've been able to start getting those consistent meetings with their clients, being able to present and communicate to them, hey, this is what we have, this is where you're at, here's how we can improve by using that assessment framework that I talked about.
Mm-hmm.
They can now easily say, hey, right now you're scoring at a 60%, we believe over the next year we can get you 80%. Here's what that impact is going to be on your bottom line. They're really excited because now they're starting to see a consistent conversion of those bookkeeping and tax prep clients turning into advisory clients. And as you know, that means more profitability because you're not expending more money to generate those new leads, but you're getting higher level, more profitability. You're not adding more team and staff.
Mm.
And then the best part about it, you mentioned earlier, is now they have these mechanisms in place to help them drive reviews, case studies, and testimonials so that they can start to
Yeah.
generate more referrals.
Makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. A lot of businesses don't focus on getting those reviews. They don't follow up with a survey. They don't follow up with anything like that. And you're missing out, man, because you could have like what you said, a raving fan, and maybe you don't even know that. Maybe you don't even know how much they would be willing to go out for you and promote you, right? So until you send that survey, until you ask them for that review, it's not super hard. And people want to help other businesses. I mean, if you're a business owner, you understand where you're at. Give me a review. I'd love to improve. If you have anything that you want to tell me privately that we can improve upon, send that to me directly. If you have something positive that you could share, we'd love for you to share it online. Is
Yeah.
usually the strategy that I take. Um, okay, so I love what we've talked about here. I think there's some really cool stuff. When we're talking about this, though, we've been talking mostly about um, your clients. I want to just for a second talk about, what do y'all do for this? Do you follow this sort of the exact same strategy that you're implementing for your clients, or is there a slightly different approach for y'all to track clients and do this? Because a lot of folks are probably looking at you as a great example of a business where they could come and do something similar. Maybe they're an agency, and we talked about this before. There's tons of fish in the sea. It's not like we're concerned about competition, but what do you think about that? What are y'all doing?
Yeah, so we definitely use that same framework, and you probably hear a lot um, that you want to teach what you know and use your life experiences to share with others. And we've essentially built the same framework for ourselves that we teach with our clients. We use LinkedIn outreach. We do a podcast much like this one where we're providing value on the front end. So the way that we're helping drive our own awareness and engagement is we interview people that we want to work with or partner with. We elevate them, we highlight them, we share value from that interview that we provide. And then as part of that, we offer to share with them how we work with our clients, not so that we can sell them, but we say, hey, as a fellow advisor, here's how we could be a resource for you if you see someone that has a need.
Right.
And going through that process, a lot of times they'll have that aha moment where they're like, wait a minute, I could apply this to my business.
Yeah.
And when that happens, we essentially are sharing, here's how you can get more out of this interview. Here's how you can get more out of sharing this. Here's how this could apply to your clients. And at the end, simple question, would you like our help with that? And yes or no, we'll still be friends.
Yeah.
We'd love to support you any way that we can. And that's how we progress that relationship and essentially look to ascend our clients the same way we do with ours.
Yeah. And it's the same way you do with a lead that you get in an email form. You're going to email them for, months and months and months, and maybe they convert in a year when they're finally, unhappy, or they finally need to make that move and that change. So, it's that, I think it's that process too of staying in touch with them and doing that. Very cool. I love that. And it's funny too that you mentioned that sometimes they see what you're doing and they sort of see behind the scenes, they see behind the curtain because they were just sold. Sort of, they start to be sold and they go, oh shoot, this is how he's doing it. He's doing it by bringing me in, providing me value, doing X, Y, and Z things, elevating me, talking about me. There's a lot of interesting things there that people want. It builds a great network of folks. So it's fun that you bring that up. Well, we're about up with time. We've gone 49 minutes, a great long podcast here today, a little bit longer than we normally do. I appreciate your time, Manny. It was a fun conversation. Is there anything that you want to share real quick to promote or plug for you and your business? Anything that you're doing or giving away that people might find some value in that they want to should go visit?
Yeah, so if you visit growthamplifiers.com, and at the top we have a get started, a little red button, that's going to take you to the assessment. So if you're a B2B advisor and you're looking to see where are some opportunities in my business to be more effective, optimize what I'm doing, whether you're just getting started or you're looking to really elevate and take it to another level, it's always good to get that outside perspective, because a lot of times you can't see the forest from the trees. So that's what is provided from that assessment. And once you send that in, you get an opportunity to kind of chat with us, and we can share more insights with you.
Cool. I love it. Growthadvisors.com, right?
Growth Amplifiers.
Growthamplifiers.com. Okay, visit Manny at growthamplifiers.com. And Manny, just thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it. Whenever we could share information with our audience from people like you who have experience like this, we love it, and we appreciate you coming by. Remember, everybody, this is sponsored by Approved Social. Please check it out. It's the first collaborative feedback, approval, and publishing engine for digital marketers, where we're actually, we've built a case study that shows I've got 40% reduction of time to launch your ad campaigns. So it's, at that point, guys, it's just a matter of doing some analysis and some math to determine how much am I actually saving from that process? How much am I actually generating from that as well? And we've had clients that have actually been able to use Approved Social because of Approved Social, that they won themselves more contracts with that same client. And they've been able to generate revenue and, of course, increase lifetime value. So check it out, approvedsocial.io. We have a 14-day free trial. Manny, thanks again for your time. We love it. We'll see you soon.